Ever had that feeling? That pit in your stomach screaming at you to stop? That inner voice yelling, "Don't go there." That nagging feeling begging you, "Don't trust that person." And you ignored it. Because your rational mind told you you were just being paranoid. Because you thought you were blowing things way out of proportion. Because everyone else said everything was fine. And then you found out your intuition was right, all along. That person was exactly who you felt they were. That decision was exactly the mistake your body tried to warn you about. That path was exactly the disaster your gut feeling predicted. Carl Jung spent his entire life studying this phenomenon, and what he discovered is terrifying, because Jung didn't see intuition as some mystical sixth sense. He saw it as a cognitive function, as real as logical thinking, a function that accesses information your conscious mind simply can't process, information that comes from the unconscious, from the body, from patterns you picked up on without even realizing it. And when you ignore that function, Jung said something terrible happens. The inner situation that is not made, conscious, appears outside as fate. Let me repeat that, because it's crucial. When you ignore an internal perception, when you dismiss what your body is trying to tell you, that perception doesn't just disappear, it manifests in the external world as an event, as a consequence, as a fate that seems to come from outside, but actually came from within. You ignored the internal warning, and the warning materialized in your life. Andrew Huberman confirmed this in a way that will shock you. In May of 2024, he interviewed Dr. Diego Bojorquez, a neuroscientist at Duke University who discovered something revolutionary. Your gut has neurons, not just bacteria that affect your mood, real neurons. Nerve cells identical to those in your brain. And these neurons are connected directly to your brain by the vagus nerve. Bojorquez called this the gut sense, a neural pathway dedicated exclusively to sending information from your gut to your brain, information about the environment, about the people around you, about potentially dangerous situations. And here's the part that changes everything. This information reaches your brain before you even have time to think about it. Your gut knows before your conscious mind does. That pit in your stomach isn't just a metaphor. It's neuroscience. It's your enteric nervous system sending a danger alert to your brain. And when you ignore that alert, you're literally ignoring neural data, information processed by a network of 100 million neurons in your gut. 100 million, more neurons than in your entire spinal cord, and you're dismissing all of that because your logical brain said it doesn't make sense. Jung understood this hundreds of years before. Neuroscience proved it. He said that intuition is a psychological function that transmits perceptions in an unconscious way, that it can perceive possibilities inherent in a situation, that it sees connections that the rational mind is too blind to notice. And he went even further. Jung said that when you consistently ignore your intuition, something dark happens. The shadow begins to act autonomously. The shadow is everything you've rejected in yourself, including your intuitive ability. When you repress your intuition, when you treat it as irrational and invalid, it doesn't die. It goes into the unconscious, and there, it gains autonomy. It starts influencing your decisions in ways you don't even realize. It sabotages your relationships. It leads you to situations that confirm exactly what it tried to warn you about. It's a psychic revenge. The ignored intuition becomes the architect of your suffering. Marie-Louise von Franz, one of Jung's closest collaborators, said something terrifying. The shadow becomes hostile only when it is ignored or misunderstood. Your intuition is part of your shadow when you reject it, and a hostile intuition transforms into a negative destiny. This explains why some people repeat the same mistakes, why they enter the same toxic relationships, why they make the same destructive choices. It's not a lack of intelligence, it's ignored intuition operating on autopilot in the unconscious. Huberman explained the neural mechanism behind this. There's a constant interaction between three brain structures: the amygdala, the insula, and the prefrontal cortex. The insula receives interoceptive signals from the body, including signals from the gut. It processes this information and assigns an emotional value. This value is sent to the amygdala. The amygdala decides whether it's a threat or not, and the prefrontal cortex tries to rationalize everything. The problem is when the prefrontal cortex overwrites the amygdala, when your logical mind says, "Ignore that. It's just a feeling." When you use reason to silence the body, researchers have discovered something disturbing. When they blocked the signals from the insula to the amygdala in experiments, the subjects made worse decisions, much worse, because they were operating without the intuitive data, without the information the body sends about the environment. You do this every time you ignore a premonition. You voluntarily block the signals from the insula, and you operate with incomplete information, thinking you're being rational, when in reality, you're being blind. Jung mapped 4 main psychological functions: thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. In each person, one of these functions is dominant, and one is inferior, repressed, underdeveloped. For highly rational people, intuition is often the inferior function, the function they most despise, the function they most need to develop. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, requires integrating the inferior function, requires making peace with intuition if you've repressed it your whole life. Otherwise, it continues to sabotage you from the unconscious. It continues to create negative synchronicities, external events that mirror your internal conflict. You ignore the warning about a person, and that person betrays you exactly in the way you sensed. You ignore the warning about a job, and that job destroys your mental health exactly as your body predicted. It's not a coincidence. It's the repressed intuition manifesting externally what you refuse to see internally. But hold on, because this is about to get even deeper. Jung documented hundreds of cases of patients who ignored their intuition, and he found a chilling pattern. The smarter and more rational the person, the more they tended to dismiss those intuitive signals, and the more catastrophic the consequences, because highly rational people develop a cognitive arrogance. They think the conscious mind is superior to everything, that anything that doesn't pass through the logical filter is irrelevant, and that arrogance blinds them to half of reality. Jung called this ego inflation, when the conscious ego thinks it's bigger than it actually is, when it despises the unconscious, when it treats the body like a dumb subordinate. And the unconscious doesn't like being despised. It reacts, it sabotages, it creates situations that force the person to acknowledge what they rejected. And usually, those situations are painful, because pain is the only language the arrogant ego understands. Dr. Andrew Huberman explained this in neuroscientific terms. There's a phenomenon called ego depletion. When you overuse the prefrontal cortex to control impulses, when you constantly suppress the body's signals, the prefrontal cortex becomes depleted. It gets weak, and then the signals you suppressed explode, with much greater force than if you'd listened earlier. That intuition you ignored for months, that hunch you suppressed for years, when it finally breaks through the barrier of the exhausted prefrontal cortex, it comes like an avalanche, like an emotional collapse, like an impulsive decision that destroys everything, and you don't even understand where it came from. It came from inside, from the place you ignored, from the body you silenced, from the gut feeling you treated like trash. There's a story that illustrates this perfectly. A patient of a modern Jungian analyst, let's call her Sarah, a successful executive, graduated from the best universities, rational to an extreme. She despised anything she couldn't prove with data. She met a guy. Let's call him David. Everything about him seemed perfect. Impeccable resume, appropriate behavior, excellent references. But every time she was near him, she felt a pit in her stomach, an unexplainable discomfort, a feeling that something was wrong. She ignored it, because her logical brain said it was irrational, because the data said he was perfect, because she thought she was too smart to trust feelings. They got married. 2 years later, she discovered he had a double life, another family, enormous debts, a history of scams he hid masterfully, everything the rational mind couldn't see. The body saw from day one, and she ignored the body. Because our culture teaches that the mind is superior, that feelings get in the way of decisions, that logic is the only valid form of knowledge. But Carl Jung and Dr. Andrew Huberman prove the opposite. They prove that you need both, the mind and the body, logic and intuition, the conscious and the unconscious. To deny half of yourself is to walk limping through the world, and to get hurt on obstacles you would see if you were whole. Now I need to tell you about a 2024 study that changed how scientists view interoception. Interoception is the ability to perceive the internal signals of the body, and it's the neurological basis of intuition. Researchers at molecular psychiatry discovered that interoceptive fear, the fear that comes from inside the body, plays a central role in how we process threats. People with high interoception, people who listen to their bodies, have a better ability to avoid dangerous situations. People with low interoception, people who ignore bodily signals, enter risky situations without realizing it. Their body is screaming danger, and they can't hear it, because they turned off the communication channel. Dr. Huberman explained that interoception can be trained. You can increase your ability to listen to the body. But first, you need to stop silencing it. First, you need to recognize that that pit in your stomach is information, that strange feeling near someone is neural data, that unexplainable discomfort is your nervous system processing something your mind hasn't understood yet. Carl Jung had a practice he never officially published, but that his closest students reported. He called it attention to the body. Before making any important decision, Jung would stop, close his eyes, and ask his body what it felt about that decision. Not the mind, the body. He waited until he felt a somatic response, a relaxation that meant yes, or a tension that meant no, and he took that response seriously as any rational analysis, because he knew that the body knows things the mind doesn't, that the unconscious processes information that consciousness can't access, and that to ignore this is to walk blind through the world. Dr. Bohorquez explained in the episode with Dr. Huberman that the sensory cells of the gut, called neuropod cells, detect nutrients, toxins, and even pathogens, but they also detect emotional states of the people around you. Yes, you read that right. Your gut can perceive the emotional state of another person through chemical signals, through pheromones, through mechanisms we're still discovering. That bad feeling near a person, that discomfort you can't explain. Maybe your gut detecting something about them, something your conscious mind will take months to figure out, if it figures it out at all. And you're ignoring it, you're dismissing it as overthinking. Jung would say you're feeding your shadow. Every time you ignore intuition, you give more power to the unconscious. You strengthen the autonomy of the shadow. You create more distance between who you are and who you think you are. And that distance takes a toll you pay in wrong decision, in toxic relationships, in missed opportunities, in fates that seem like bad luck, but were ignored warnings. There's a concept in analytical psychology called the transcendent function. It's the ability to unite opposites, to integrate the conscious and unconscious, to make the rational mind and intuition work together. Jung said this function is the key to psychological health, and that it only develops when you stop repressing half of yourself, when you stop treating intuition as the enemy, when you stop using logic to silence the body. Huberman offers a practical protocol for this. He calls it interoceptive awareness practice, a practice of interoceptive awareness, and it's simple, but powerful. Every day, set aside a few minutes to simply feel your body, not thinking about it, but feeling it. Observe the sensations in your stomach, in your chest, in your throat, in your hands. Don't judge, Don't interpret. Just observe. Over time, you start to distinguish signals. You begin to notice patterns. You start to recognize when your body is telling you something important. And here comes the crucial part. When your body does tell you something, take it seriously. Don't dismiss it as irrational. Don't overwrite it with logic. At least investigate. At least give credence to the possibility that your gut knows something your mind doesn't. Carl Jung had a patient that he describes in his works, a highly rational businessman, who despised anything that couldn't be proven logically, who ridiculed intuition as primitive thinking. This man ignored a premonition about a business partner. All the internal signals said do not trust, but the rational analysis said the partner was perfect. Optimal numbers, impeccable references, impeccable logic. The man followed the logic and lost everything. The partner robbed him in ways that no rational analysis could have predicted, but that his intuition tried to warn him about. Jung used this case to illustrate the danger of psychological one-sidedness. When you live only by reason, you're operating at half your capacity. You're blind to half of reality, and that blind half is exactly where the dangers hide. Because the people who want to manipulate you, the situations that want to destroy you, they know how to hide from logical analysis. They know how to look perfect on paper, but they can't fool your body. They can't fool your 100 million intestinal neurons. They can't fool the accumulated wisdom of millions of years of evolution. Unless you ignore it all, unless you choose voluntary blindness. Let me tell you about the 3 levels of intuition that Jung mapped out, because it's not all the same. There are different depths of intuitive signals, and each level has different implications. The first level is sensory intuition. It's the most basic. It's the pit in your stomach, the tension in your shoulders, the lump in your throat, clear physical signals that something is wrong. This level is processed by the enteric nervous system, the 100 million neurons in your gut, the gut-brain axis. When you ignore this level, you're ignoring direct biological data. It's like ignoring a fire alarm because you think alarms are irrational. The second level is emotional intuition. It's more subtle. It's that vague feeling that something isn't right. Without a clear physical signal, just a diffuse discomfort, a restlessness you can't name. Jung said that this level comes from the personal unconscious, from the memories and experiences you've accumulated throughout your life. Your subconscious recognizes patterns that your conscious mind hasn't registered, and it warns you through vague emotions. When you ignore this level, you're ignoring the accumulated wisdom of your entire life. All the experiences that taught you to recognize danger, all the patterns you learned without knowing you learned them. The third level is archetypal intuition. It's the deepest and most mysterious. Jung believed that we access universal patterns of human behavior, the collective unconscious, wisdom accumulated over millions of years of evolution, that feeling that you know something you never learned, that instant recognition of an archetypal situation comes from this level. When you ignore this level, you're ignoring the wisdom of the entire species. Survival patterns encoded in your DNA, danger signals that your ancestors learned and passed on genetically. A neuroscientist at Duke University, Dr. Huberman, has partially validated this. He explained that the brain has pattern recognition systems that operate below the conscious level. Systems that identify threats before you have time to think. Systems inherited from millions of years of natural selection. Our ancestors who ignored these signals died, didn't pass on their genes. You're here because your ancestors listened to their intuition, and you're going to ignore yours? Going to squander millions of years of evolutionary wisdom because your rational mind of 20, 30, 40 years thinks it knows better? That's cosmic arrogance, and the greatest form of voluntary blindness. It's exactly what Jung called ego inflation. Now you might be thinking, but what about when intuition is wrong? What about when fear is irrational? What about when anxiety is creating false alarms? Valid question. And Jung had an answer. There's a crucial difference between intuition and fear. Fear is generally specific and imaginative. You can describe exactly what you fear. You can create detailed scenarios in your mind. Intuition is vague and bodily. You feel something is wrong but can't explain what. There are no images in your mind, just a sensation in your body. Fear generally increases when you think about it. Intuition generally remains constant. It doesn't shout louder when you analyze it. It's simply there, quiet, but persistent. Dr. Huberman added a neurological method to distinguish. When you feel something, ask yourself where it's coming from the head or the body. If you can locate the origin in your head, if it feels like a thought with sensations, it's probably anxiety or cognitive fear. If the origin seems to come from the chest, stomach, or throat, if it's a sensation with vague thoughts, it's probably genuine intuition. This distinction changes everything because it allows you to know when to listen and when to question. But let me go even deeper, because there are specific signals from the body that most people completely ignore, and each signal has a meaning, a message, information that your conscious mind needs to receive. The pit in your stomach usually indicates social threat. Your gut has detected something about a person or situation that represents relational danger, potential betrayal, hidden manipulation, intentions that don't match the words. Tension in your shoulders indicates an overload of responsibility. You're carrying something you shouldn't be, or accepting a burden that belongs to someone else, or entering a situation that will demand more than you can give. That lump in your throat. It signifies blocked communication. Something needs to be said, and it's not being said. A truth that you're swallowing down. An expression of yourself that's being repressed. The pressure in your chest. That indicates a conflict of values. Something you're doing or considering doing. That goes against who you really are, a betrayal of yourself in the making. A choice that your deepest self rejects. Dr. Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist at Duke University, has explained that each of these sensations has a specific neural pathway. This isn't mysticism. It's anatomy. It's your body using distinct communication channels for distinct messages. And when you learn to read these messages, you gain access to information that no rational analysis can provide. You become whole. Carl Jung had a concept called the subtle body. He believed that beyond the physical body, there exists an energetic body, a body that perceives what the physical body doesn't perceive, that senses what the common senses don't sense. This might sound esoteric, but Huberman has explained that the body has sensory systems that we're still discovering. Receptors for weak electromagnetic fields, sensitivity to unconscious pheromones, the capacity to detect micro-vibrations. The body feels much more than we know, and all of this is processed below the conscious level and transformed into vague sensations, into hunches, into intuition. Ignoring this is like walking through the world with half your senses turned off. It's possible, but it's risky, it's incomplete, and it's exactly what our rational culture has taught us to do. I know it's difficult. Our entire culture teaches us to distrust the body, to trust only the mind, to be rational above all else. We've been conditioned to see intuition as a weakness, as magical thinking, as something for people who can't think straight. But the greatest thinkers disagree. Albert Einstein said that intuition is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Carl Jung spent decades proving that intuition isn't the opposite of reason. It's the complement of it. It's the other half of human knowledge, and Dr. Andrew Huberman is proving that it has a solid neural basis, that it's not mysticism, it's neuroscience. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to continue ignoring that sensation? Are you going to continue dismissing that pit in your stomach? Are you going to continue treating your body like a nuisance that gets in the way of your reasoning? Or are you going to start listening? Are you going to start integrating? Are you going to start using your full cognitive capacity, not just half of it? Carl Jung warned that intuition ignored becomes fate. What you resist persists. Dr. Andrew Huberman has proven that the body knows before the mind. You have 100 million neurons trying to protect you, and only you can decide whether to listen to them. That relationship that your body rejects, that job that gives you a knot in your stomach, that person who makes you feel strange for no apparent reason. Maybe the reason does exist. Maybe your body knows something that your mind hasn't yet discovered. Maybe it's time to stop ignoring it. What you've just listened to took months of research. Connecting Carl Jung with Dr. Andrew Huberman. Finding the studies from 2024. Translating neuroscience into accessible language. It's work that few channels do, because it requires time, dedication, and the courage to question narratives. If this helped you understand something new, if this made you reconsider how you treat your intuition, the super thanks isn't just financial support. It's you saying now continue revealing these connections. It's you funding the next research project. It's you becoming part of a community that unites depth psychology with neuroscience. When you click on the golden heart below, you're investing in content that academia keeps separate, in revelations that few dare to make, in knowledge that can change how you live. Now tell me in the comments, what was the time you ignored your intuition and paid the price? That moment when your body screamed and you silenced it, and then discovered that it was right. Share your story, because each of these stories helps others to stop making the same mistake. And since you've stayed until now, you're clearly someone who seeks to understand in depth, who isn't satisfied with superficial answers, who wants to connect psychology with neuroscience. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe now and activate the bell icon. Because every week I bring more connections like this, more revelations that Carl Jung made and Dr. Andrew Huberman is proving. More tools for you to integrate mind and body, for you to stop operating with half your capacity, for you to finally listen to what your body has been trying to tell you for years. Your intuition is screaming right now about something in your life, about someone, about a decision. The question is, are you going to continue ignoring it? Or are you finally going to listen